our friend, Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn. Senator, great to see you as always.
Good to see you.
I just want to ask you for your thoughts on what I've just said, and also on this pretty incredible year that we're just coming to the end of in so many ways.
You're correct. It has been an incredible year, one that nobody anticipated. And one of the things I think is so precise that you have just touched on is that big business, big government, big tech, big media, they all go hand in hand, and they're all a part of the D.C. swamp. And thank goodness for Donald Trump and his efforts to drain the swamp. And I think the American people are finding out just how murky the swamp is. And you know, Steve, one of the things you touched on about the bureaucracy and cutting it, I have said for a long time we need to have term limits for bureaucrats, because they're the ones that dig in and they won't leave. And they never modernize, they don't use technology, they always demand more money, they never get a pay cut, they're always getting pay raises. So we need to have term limits for bureaucrats.
I think that's such an interesting point, and we don't talk about this enough, because in our conversations, you know, we focus on the politics and the people who are elected, but you know, actually one of the other helpful things that the president has done is highlight this idea, which people are becoming more and more familiar with, whatever term they use, the deep state. We have Jason Chaffetz coming up, obviously wrote a book about that, the administrative state. It's so powerful in determining what actually happens, and yet we never really get to grips with what it's about and how we can tame it and reduce it and do something about it. Do you think you'll be able to get some success with that in terms of the reforms you want to see?
One of the things that we're going to focus on this year is removing some of that power from D.C. Of course, as you're well aware, I had legislation that would have moved some of these federal agencies out of Washington, D.C. And that is something that we need to begin to do, to break up the agencies and their stranglehold here around the Washington, D.C. area. And of course, right now we are focused on the Senate races that are coming to a close in Georgia. We have to hold the Senate because Chuck Schumer has said if he is going to take Georgia, which is his word, then he's going to change the country. And one of the things he wants to do is statehood for D.C. and for Puerto Rico, expanding the Supreme Court, growing the federal agencies, and giving these bureaucrats more power and taking power and freedom away from the people. So we're going to focus on that. And you know, one of the things you mentioned was how the left expects us to submit to their agenda. And Steve, as you know, my book I wrote this fall, Mind of a Conservative Woman, I talk about how they want to only recognize women or conservatives that submit to their agenda. They only want to hear from people that will submit to that agenda. And that is something that we, the people, have to be the people and put an end to this by holding big media and big tech accountable and taking power away from them and giving it back to citizens.
Well, what a fantastic summary of all the things we need to be focused on. I really appreciate, Senator. And it reminds me of, again, something else we got coming up later on this evening, which is the great success we've had we saw with the party, with so many women being elected to the House of Representatives for the first time. That was fantastic. All following in your footsteps, powerful women championing the conservative cause in Congress. Great to see you. Happy New Year, and we'll see much more of you next year.
Yes.